And if we have, we've got plenty of room for people to spread out. So spread out, keep your social distance. And we will begin our meeting. Today is August 24th. We have a public hearing. Can we all please stand to recite the Pledge of Allegiance? Dan, could you lead us?
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. We have a public hearing that is Planning Board Job 1825A, Gail Grace Estates of Coped. This is a modified location, modified plan. The location is southwest corner of Merrick Road and Bayview Avenue. Matthew Esposito, hold on. Matt, where are you? Okay. Matt, could you please read the Planning Board memorandum from the Commissioner into the record? Matthew Esposito, our Chief Planner.
The above mentioned applicant has submitted a modified site plan. The Planning Board approved the original application to demolish an existing structure and construct a 3-story apartment building consisting of 16 one-bedroom units on March 4th, 2019 by resolution number 2019-035. The modified plans were revised to add an additional parcel of land to the overall development, Lot 59, to provide additional parking stalls and improve site circulation. Additionally, a change from 16 one-bedroom units to 8 one-bedroom units and 8 two-bedroom units is proposed. The expanded parking area is located on a parcel that is primarily zoned C residence. As a result, the application must go back before the ZBA for a use variance. The ZBA approved the application on December 12, 2018, ZBA case number 2018-195. Additionally, a number of conditions and covenants and restrictions that were placed on the property as part of the original application are no longer applicable as a result of the change to the site plans. The following conditions and covenants and restrictions from Planning Board Resolution number 2019-035 should be lifted. Namely, covenant and restriction number 19. The owner-operator is responsible for the proper placement of refuse containers at curbside and retrieval of empty containers. Where additional garbage pickup is required due to inaccessibility, it will be the financial responsibility of the owner-operator. Due to site circulation, a new standard TOB refuse enclosure will be provided. As a result, curb service with individual cans will no longer be utilized. Covenant and restriction number 20. Should Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 181-4-62 and 181-4-63 not be merged, no parcel shall be sold or operated independent of the other parcel, since the parcels only operate conjointly as a contiguous site. This CNR will be lifted and replaced with a new covenant. See requested covenant number 1 below that references all 3 parcels and now involved in this application. Conditions number 19, the number of on-site containers for curbside refuse pickup is limited to 10 for communal use. As previously stated, due to new site circulation, a new standard TOB refuse enclosure will be provided. As a result, curb service with individual cans will no longer be utilized. Condition number 21, because of the deficiency in parking, if substantiated complaints regarding spillover parking or parking areas not designated for parking are received by the Planning Department, the Commissioner of the Town of Babylon Planning Department shall notify the property owner by certified mail to rectify any such parking problems. If the property owner fails to correct said overflow parking issue after 30 days from the date of such mailing, the Planning Board reserves the right, after a duly noticed public hearing, to impose additional conditions of site plan approval, including, but not limited to, requiring the property owner to lease unoccupied and/or unused off-site parking spaces to lawfully accommodate overflow parking and/or to obtain use of additional parking spaces by means of a cross-access agreement. Such additional conditions of approval shall have the such additional conditions of approval shall relate to parking only and shall not be unreasonably imposed. The property owner shall have the opportunity to implement the above item or prepare and/or implement a spillover parking plan for peak parking periods acceptable to the Commissioner of Planning and Development prior to having a public hearing before the Planning Board. Due to the modifications to this site plan, the parking requirements for this use have now been met. Revisions are required in a number of departments. All previously approved conditions and covenants and restrictions remain applicable, except for those expressly stated to be lifted. Should the Planning Board approve the site plan, the following additional conditions and covenants and restrictions are requested at this time. Conditions. Number 1, subject to ZBA approval for any associated variances. Number 2, Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 181-4-62, 63, and 59 shall be merged. Number 3, applicant required to pay a fee of $6,850 to the town of Babylon to be used to fund a traffic signal warrant study for the area, including the intersections of Montauk Highway and Jervis Avenue and Montauk Highway and Wilson Avenue, as well as Montauk Highway and Baylawn Avenue. Covenants and restrictions. Number 1, should Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 181-4-62, 63, and 59 not be merged, no parcel shall be sold or operated independent of the other parcel, since the parcels only operate conjointly as a contiguous site. That's a complete memo.
Thank you very much, Mr. Esposito. As you see, one of the things we will be doing between each speaker is wiping down the podium. Thank you very much. I know we have who is here to represent the council, represent the applicant. As you're moving to the podium, I just want to read this into the record. The planning board shall have the right to rely on any information that is presented by the applicant. If any such information is later found to be inaccurate or incorrect, the planning board may determine that any of the approvals, building permits, or other actions previously granted in connection with the application are null and void. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, members of the board. For the record, Nicole Blanda. I'm an attorney at Bazell, Blanda, and Visconti with offices at 535 Broad Hollow Road in Melville.
I presume you've reviewed the memorandum that Mr. Esposito read into the record?
Yes.
Do you have any questions, comments, objections to any of the items, conditions, or other items that are listed in that memo from the commission?
No.
So does your client, do they agree to all of those conditions, terms, and regulations and covenants?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Please proceed.
We're here tonight on a modified site plan for a project that was approved by this board in March of 2019. The project is known as Gale Grace Estates of Copeg, and it was approved as a 3-story, 16 one-bedroom apartment building. I'm sure the board members have been by, and you can see that the building has been constructed. The approval had certain covenants and conditions that basically have led us here tonight in an effort to proactively comply with those conditions and to improve the original site plan. If this modified plan is approved, it will eliminate the need for the parking variance that was already granted by the zoning board. It will improve the site circulation, and it will also create a location for the refuse enclosure, for a standard town of Babylon refuse enclosure, which at the hearing, we did know that people wanted, but we were unable to provide at that time. This modified plan was discussed with planning prior to acquiring this parcel, which is a 6,000 square foot parcel known as 30 Baylawn Avenue. It has 60 feet of frontage on Baylawn, and as you can see from the aerial photo, It immediately abuts the longer part of our parcel. And so it creates an L shape right there. And then it hooks around so that you have a now sort of a horseshoe shape or a C shape for the entire parcel. The original site had about 20,400 square feet. With the addition of this parcel, should it be approved this way, it would have 26,400 square feet. It is slightly split zoned. It has a sliver of business E within it, but it is predominantly zoned residential. I don't know if it's possible to have the site plan shown on the screen. On the planning board approval, condition number 21 essentially put the applicant on notice to seek more parking, because if there were any future overflow parking problems, he would have to address them in some way. As you heard Mr. Esposito when he read the memo, the applicant and owner could have been notified that there was a problem based on complaints from neighbors, and then he would then either be called before this board to try to rectify the problem. He could also have been required to lease more space or to acquire property. So in an effort to be proactive, when 30 Bay Lawn came on the market, Mr. Giannini brought in a survey. We met with planning and asked them what they thought. Would this work? Could we do this? Would this satisfy the parking requirement? He then acquired the property. Originally, the plan had a one-way in on the Bay Lawn curb cut. So you can see that was the plan we filed, right turn in, no cars coming out, which means no cars could go south on Bay Lawn Avenue. That was what we proposed. We were okay with that. However, after departmental review, the town offered as a comment the following, and I quote, "The newly proposed curb cut on Bay Lawn Avenue should be a two-way full-service curb cut. This provides much better site functionality and circulation." Now, I don't bring that up to throw anyone under the bus. I simply bring it up to offer an explanation for why the change was made, why the change is being proposed. The planning board might not agree with that change. I have a feeling there are neighbors behind me that don't agree with that change. We're open. So I just wanted to show the board that we did propose it both ways. This is one way in, and people would not be able to have egress onto Bay Lawn heading south. Based upon that comment and direction, we filed a revised plan. The revised plan, and I see Mr. Esposito is bringing it up, has the two-way full-service curb cut, has a 5-foot landscape buffer along the perimeter of the additional portion of the site, as well as the usual 6-foot-high chain link fence with the black vinyl slats. We picked up more parking spaces. Originally, we had to get a parking variance from 32 to 24. We now have 37 spaces. We are requesting to convert 8 of the 1-bedroom units to 2-bedroom, but we still meet the parking now that we have the additional property if it is approved. There is a new standard Town of Babylon refuse enclosure proposed basically next to where the Wendy's has their refuse enclosure. It alleviates the original proposal, which was to have 10 individual garbage cans used and left out on Bay Lawn. They were going to be rolled out. I don't know if the board remembers that, but this would alleviate that. It would eliminate it actually, because we would have our own refuse enclosure. The curb cut on Bay Lawn would then work to allow the sanitation truck to be able to come in and access that refuse enclosure. So that was another comment that we had in our departmental comments. The approved site is built. This would simply be an addition to that site in an effort to comply with the town conditions, with the town recommendations, and to basically finalize out the site. The applicant has contributed the $6,850 to the engineering firm. I believe it's Cameron Engineering that will be conducting the traffic signal warrant study. It was slowed down because of COVID. Obviously, they want to get the right counts, but I do believe it's underway. I'm not directly involved, obviously, it's a town study, but in case the board is wondering, the applicant has already complied with that condition. Everything else you see on that site plan is as is. if the board has any questions, I don't want to go on and on. I know we have a lot of people here tonight, and to be honest, with the mask, it does make it a little more difficult. So if the board members have questions, I'm here to answer it, however you want to proceed.
Thank you very much. Do any of the board members have any questions of the attorney for the applicant at this time? That's Frank.
The entrance going onto Merrick Road is also full service, full place?
Yes.
Okay, could you show that to us now? The entrance going on there?
That was approved by the DOT. We're not touching it. I'm trying, it's with the mask, it's approved by the DOT and we're not touching it.
Okay, it's approved by the DOT and it's staying that way.
Thank you.
Any other questions by any board member, Julianne, Ed, Michael? No. Okay. Thank you very much. Do we have a list of people who would like to address the board? Oh, okay, I'm getting the protocols. We used to have everybody fill out cards. We're not doing that. We don't want anybody touching anything. So why don't we do this? For those who would like to address the board, please raise your hand. Okay, we'll start right here. When you come up, please state your name and address for the record.
Costantino, 632 Merrick Road, Copig, by Stephen A. Costantino. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Okay, I know you're an attorney.
Yes,
Am I supposed to swear in other attorneys?
I have no problem. I have no problem.
Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but
I
the
do.
truth? Thank you very much.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, board members. As I indicated, my name is Stephen Costantino. Before I begin our remarks, I'd like to compliment Ms. Blander on a very professional presentation. I'd also like to compliment Mr. Giannini on the construction of what is really a beautiful project. Notwithstanding the professionalism of Ms. Blander's presentation and the beauty of the project, the application simply does not comply with New York law. And as a matter of longstanding common law as well as statutory law, denial of this application is mandated. On July 31st of this year, I filed with the planning board a letter in opposition. I will hand up a copy so that it's part of the official record. But essentially, this application is commonly referred to as spot zoning. Some 70 years ago, the New York Court of Appeals defined spot zoning as the process of singling out a small parcel of land for a use classification totally different from that of the surrounding area and for the benefit of the owner of such property to the detriment of the other owners. I wish my mother was here to hear
I
that.
know. We're listening very carefully to everything Mr. Constantino is talking about. We're listening very carefully to everything you have to say. Please, he's here to address us. Not everybody there. If you agree with him, great. If you disagree with him, that's fine too, but please keep no applauding or anything. Please proceed. Can we turn the volume up? All right, I'll speak louder. Mr. Constantino,
Yes,
you two
I'll
gotta
do my
get
best.
closer to the mic.
Now, as indicated by the site plan that's on the screen behind the board, between the project as constructed and the proposed modification to the site plan, there are two residences, both of which are in the heart of a C residential zone. Every single parcel lying south of the proposed supplement is a residential parcel and has been a residential parcel since this area was developed almost 90 years ago. This is a classic case of spot zoning. Now, spot zoning is not categorically unlawful or unconstitutional. There are cases where spot zoning can be upheld in court. However, the basic factor that must be applicable in every spot zoning approval is conformity with the overall master plan of the town. As this board knows, there are 5 points in that master plan. The first and the most important point is to maintain and strengthen the town's suburban character. It would be really hard to imagine something more inconsistent with the suburban character of this neighborhood than the entry of a commercial parking lot in the middle of a residential zone. The second factor is to respond to changing population. Copeg does have a change in population, but we also have a significant increase in apartment construction in this town, most of which remains vacant. The project just completed north of the railroad station is entirely vacant. Approximately 40% vacancy at the project on the railroad station. So there really is no need from changing population to not only spot zone this parcel, but essentially double density of half of the parcel by converting it from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom. The third, to improve the quality of life, especially in economically distressed areas. The town of Babylon has 3 school districts within its borders that have been classified by Newsday as economically distressed. They're Wyandanch, Deer Park, and Copaig. So certainly the addition of this project to an economically distressed school area does not benefit the neighborhood, especially in light of the tax abatements that the owner is receiving. To promote jobs and economic development is the fourth factor. Now, the construction of this project may have generated jobs and economic development, but once this project is completed, the occupancy of these units, by whether they're 1 or 2 bedroom occupants, is not going to do anything to increase economic opportunity in the hamlet of Copaig. And finally, to foster a stewardship of sensitive natural resources. This project is about 120 feet from a waterway that leads to the Great South Bay and borders on Tanner Park. Certainly, the introduction of commercial dumpsters, as Ms. Blanda just mentioned, in a proximity to those waterways is not consistent with the economic stewardship of the waterways that nurture the town. So in the final analysis, despite the beauty of the project and the professionalism of the presentation, this project and this application, as a matter of long-standing law, does not comply with the law requirements of the state of New York. Section 263 of the town law provides that this board only has the powers that the statute gives it. And the statute and the common law prohibit this board from granting this application as a spot zoning application unless this board makes a finding that this application complies with the 5 factors that I just outlined that are itemized in the town's master plan. So in the final analysis, I would strongly urge this board to deny this application in its entirety. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Somebody over here wants to speak. Hold on, let me finish that. I just want to remind everybody that Mr. Esposito read the memo. This board job, we are not the zoning board. So some of these issues that Mr. Constantino brought up will have to be taken up by the zoning board. So I want to remind you, it's important that you be there to present your findings. I don't know when that is set. Perhaps somebody knows. Do we have that set? We don't have a date set yet, but the planning board, our job now is to look at the site, how does it work, the flow, the traffic, the parking, stuff like that. Please state your name and address for the record.
My name is B. Artali. I live at 36 Baylon Avenue with my wife for the last 32 years. That's 36. I'm sure my house is up there somewhere, right next to this build, okay?
Hold on.
Yeah, you want to get me up there? I have that long property so that the build is right next to my driveway and the apartment building overlooks my house. It doesn't get any worse than that, okay? I lived there almost 32 years. We own and reside there for almost 32 years. We are 70, which means we have spent close to half our lives living there. When Mr. Giannini secured his application for the apartment building, he personally knocked on our door, introduced himself, and explained what it was he was going to build. Granted, we were not happy to have a huge building on the corner of our residential block, but he was pleasant, friendly, and he referred to himself as our neighbor. He answered all of our questions, and he tried to reassure us that the project was a good thing and it would not affect us negatively in any way. He said, and I quote, "B, I promise this will not affect you down here at 36. So far, he called himself a neighbor and he made promises. I personally recall his visit to our house since we had a small legal matter that concerned the property line. Back where his original parking lot for his development is, our property line, and they use the term, I guess it's a legal term, meandered a bit. And so Mr. Giannini sent an attorney to my house. asking if we would sign off and allow this little bit of property for his use. We did so. We didn't know that somewhere down the line, months later, I would be standing here, we would be standing here discussing what is going on now. At that point, if I had known that, the answer would have been no. But once again, he said, you know, that we're neighbors, made all kinds of promises, and I didn't think that was going to be a problem, okay? You know, it was nice. He was very friendly, and, you know, he gave us a picture of his development and a business card and told us if we had any problems or any questions or concerns to please call him. In the time that he leveled the existing property up on the corner and began his build, we have never called him, never once complained, okay? Just keep in mind that we are at 36 Baylawn Avenue. So this is my deck, and that's his backhoe all summer long. We've dealt with rats from him demolishing the property that was existing there. We were catching 6 or 7 of them a day after 32 years of living there, okay? Now, you know, that's just not fair. We've done that all summer, but we didn't call. We didn't do anything, okay? You know, our new deck, we waited 32 years to build a little tiny deck on front of the house and tear down the rotten one. Now, when we look over, all of his apartment building windows are right there. Yes, his parking lot was supposed to be right next to my house. Our house is set 160 feet from the street, which puts our house back here by his original parking lot. We knew that, okay? We expected to have some really damn good fences because good fences make good neighbors. But all of a sudden we saw that the house next door, our neighbor moved out and it was up for sale. The owner at that time, Ernie, he did some renovating and put it up for sale, okay? We were later to find out that Mr. Giannini had purchased that house. And I do use the term find out, discover, because when he purchased that house, there was no handshaking, no door knocking, no reassurance, no business card, no nothing. Why was that such a secret? Why didn't he come knocking and say, hey, look, I bought your neighbor's house. I'm going to tear it down and I'm going to put an exit and an entrance to my big monstrosity over there, okay? He did not. That was deceptive, okay? When we moved there 32 years ago, we got out of a real estate agent's car. If I had looked next door and seen what he plans on building now, I would have gotten right back in the real estate car and never even looked at the house I own now, all right? And neither would any prospective buyers of my house anywhere down the line. No one wants to live next to that. We chose back then to live in a residential community of Copeg. We had residential property on both sides of us, and that was fine. We never thought we were at risk for having something like that. This is a busy street. When I brought that up to Mr. Giannini, I said, we already have heavy traffic. We have a recreational, beautiful park down there and a boat launch. In the summer, getting out of my driveway sometimes is an issue. That we deal with because we chose to live where we live. And over the course of 32 years, yes, the traffic has gotten worse. He assured me, B, don't worry. I'm getting a traffic light. Everything is going to be great. Okay, this is a man who calls himself our neighbor. And he is, by the way. We all know that he is our neighbor, okay? So the thing that we're saying is, right up there next to my driveway, he is going to put this thing. I asked him face to face on that day, Mr. Giannini, with this project, Mitchell, where are your new tenants going to exit and enter that new building? Once again, B, don't be concerned about that. He said, Merrick Road. Take a look up there when it's there. Take a look at the picture. Yeah, look at the picture. He said, they enter, they exit, no problem. You're okay over here. We're okay over here, okay? We chose to live in a residential development, and we have a right as taxpayers to continue to do so. This is a residential property in a suburban area. We live there, okay? We have new owners who've purchased in the last maybe 5, 6 years. Would they have purchased had they known there was going to be this neighbors across the street with 2 beautiful little girls? This thing is a traffic hazard, okay? We've dealt with backhoes and heavy equipment parked on Bay Lawn all summer. Not a word. We said not a word. Then we find out he bought the house next to us. Wouldn't you be upset? Let me just say this. If Mr. Giannini had somebody buy the house next door to him, knock it down and build a commercial lot right there, so what he's building now, he would be standing where I am now. And if any of these board members had this same situation next door to them, you people would be complaining too. Yes, he has a lot of money. That's true. If I asked every one of you, do you want the house next door where Joe and Kathy live knocked down and have a commercial? No, you would not want this. You would fight it. You'd be standing here. He has a lot of money. We just have what we have. We have our homes. And now in these terrible, horrible times where we have no choice, where these terrible things are going on in our world, and all we can do is to stand by and try to protect our homes and our families. We have a right. We have a right as taxpayers. We are family. We're not just some business venture. Take a look around. These are families, people who pay taxes to live in this. Don't we have a right to defend our family and our homes from the safety, security, and privacy of the homes we purchased?
Thank you very much. Thank you.
In closing, let me just say, Mr. Giannini is a very good businessman. Let's hope he's just as good a neighbor.
Thank you, Dave. All right, who's next? Who would like to address the board next? Right over there, and then come over here. No, this one will go first. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Gloria Cipriano. My address is 125 Kerrigan Road. I'm on the corner of Kerrigan and Baylawn.
Okay, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Members of the planning board, I've been a resident of 125 Kerrigan Road for 55 years. I am begging you to please rethink the approval of this parking lot on Baylawn Avenue. This is a residential area. If the building cannot accommodate, then take it down. Gail Grace and the planning
Hold on, please.
Gail Grace and the planning board should have addressed these issues long before the approval of such a large building. The original building was only 2 stories. The board approved the request made and made an exception to construct a 3-story building. Now he's asking to make another exception and construct a parking lot, and now in addition to changing the whole venue there. In a residential area. How is it possible for someone to come into a residential area, buy a home, tear it down, and expect to get permission to make it into a parking lot between 2 residential homes? I am sure many of you are parents and maybe even grandparents. Would you want your family living next door to a parking lot? We have worked hard to provide a safe and happy environment for our children. These are transient people coming and going at all hours. We have children riding bikes, playing and going to school. The flow of traffic in and out of a parking lot on a residential street filled with children would be detrimental. There's enough sports, boats, beach traffic to and from the park to require an evaluation of the traffic flow now. We absolutely cannot consider adding a parking lot to Baylawn Avenue. Please, I'm begging, do not give in to the wealthy businessman and ruin the integrity and value of our neighborhood.
Thank you very much. Hold on, please stay the mic down, just give it a minute. Could you please state your name and address for the record?
My name is Jeff Garrett-Christie.
Get closer to the mic.
My name is Jeff Garrett-Christie. I live at 60 Bayloon Avenue in Copac.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Well, I may be asking you that soon.
Oh,
So-
sir, please. Come on.
So
So
I
the
grew
answer-
up,
So you're not going to answer that question?
yes, of course.
Of course, okay.
So I grew up on Bayloon Avenue. I've lived on Bayloon my entire life. My parents live at 115. And when I got older, I bought the house at 60 Bayloon Avenue. I've lived in the neighborhood for 42 years, my entire life. So over the last couple of years, there's been an awful lot of changes going around Copac, Lindenhurst, and the general town of Babylon area. A lot of which I believe is against the will of the residents of the community who've chose to live in a suburban neighborhood and not an urban area. We have apartment buildings being built all over the place. The particular property at the end of Bayloon Avenue that Mr. Giannini's built, this property should never have been constructed to begin with. It's a safety hazard. Nobody in the entire community was for this project, yet it was approved by the board, the board of the town. They are servants of the community. They're not serving Mr. Giannini and his grand plan to rebuild our neighborhood and make millions of dollars. It was not the wish of the residents of the community, and the people of the board were supposed to serve the people of the community, not Mr. Giannini. This should have never been built. It is very dangerous down at that corner, and now you're going to demolish and put in a parking lot going onto the block. This is the worst block, residential block, in the entire town of Copac. You can't even get out into the street, especially in the summertime, with cars flying down. There's no enforcement of the speed. Everybody blows through the stop signs. This is only going to be worse. It should not be built. And, like many other things in this town, so many people are against what's going on, and yet it is allowed to happen time after time, and has not been any repercussions for this. The people that are allowing this to be done should be replaced with people that are going to serve the people of the community. So I pretty much believe I speak for everybody here. And then an awful lot of people that are not here today. And was the gentleman, the attorney that spoke before. I agree with 100% of what he said, except the beauty of the building, because that building does not look beautiful on my corner. The urbanization of a residential neighborhood, is not why the people in the hamlet of Copac moved and live in this community. That's all.
Who would like to address the board on this side? Anybody on this side? No? Over here? Is there anyone else? Sir. Please.
Can everybody hear me?
Name and address for the record.
Sure. John Vogt, 264 West Lido Promenade, Lindenhurst.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you, sir. Please.
We were here, me, some of the other people here, we were here for the original hearing. And looking at it now, they're converting these bedrooms to 2 bedrooms. We were told then, well, we questioned then that they had dens. And I guess we didn't follow through because with the hearing, we were told the dens were being eliminated and they'd be 1-bedroom apartments. So I don't know where the extra room mysteriously grew in this apartment to make 8 of the units 2 bedrooms. The other thing, the parking, we were told that there was some sort of an agreement with the shopping center, which to allow additional parking. I don't know if that's true. And my question on that is, how do things get approved if they don't meet all the prior criteria to be built? So it's afterwards, let's come in and do what we have to do. And that's a little questionable.
I think we need to do some investigating.
Everybody,
Okay, hold on. Please let this gentleman speak.
like, I don't want to reiterate what everybody said, but they did. Like, Baylawn is hugely, huge traffic during the summer. If the concerts were on this summer, forget about it. It's blocked corner to corner. all the boats that go up and down to be launched every night. Now we're adding more traffic to it. We asked somebody from the state about a traffic light up there, and I'll tell you, I know they're paying $6,000 for a study. The state gave us a number of roughly $250,000 to install the light. That's a burden I don't think taxpayers should have to foot, no offense, but, you know, the way the building sits up there in the corner, I don't know if you've gone up and down Bay Lawn. I have, I drove around to look. There's no way you're gonna make a left turn onto Montauk Highway going west. I mean, you might try, but it's dangerous. And even you have to pull out in the traffic to make a right-hand turn because the building is built right up on the property line and it's blind going down. So the concern there, what about people walking across, you know, traffic, people, cars? So then I see where they're going. I didn't know there's a term for that, the slot zoning. We're starting to encroach upon residential neighborhoods. What's next? We'll start buying whole blocks and just develop them into more housing. Then I don't want to bring this up, but we talked about the COVID. You look at the newspaper, where's the areas with the highest incidence of infection rates? Your densely populated areas. So all the people that live out here and want to live in one-family homes, two-family homes, you know, obviously we're all against this tremendous building of apartments. The other thing with the vacancies, I go up and down Montauk Highway, every one of the units have for rent signs. They keep telling us how it's needed, more apartments are needed. If you want, drive up to Gray Barn on 110 at night, drive through the parking lot, see how many lights are on or how many cars are in the lot. So, you know, we just keep building, and then what's the outcome? There's no demand for it. You know, then they'll come up with a way, I guess, to create a demand, but that's a scary thought. So that's all I have to say. Representing all our community here, our people, thank you, great people, and thanks for taking time to listen.
And we thank you for coming.
All right.
Okay, wash your hands, be careful, shake. We have plenty of stuff, by the way. Could you please state your name and address for the record, and you've got to pull your mask up a little bit.
Samantha Scotty, 205 Baylon Avenue. I have lived in Amity Harbor.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
I was born and raised in Amity Harbor. I grew up on Wilson Avenue. I purchased my home on Baylon Avenue 5 years ago with my 2-year-old daughter and my husband. In the 5 years that we've lived there, I've had to have meetings with legislator Dwayne Gregory and the Suffolk County Police Department to address the traffic concerns in our area. I've watched people blow past my stop sign multiple times every day. I've watched people blow past my daughter's stopped school bus and almost hit her. Was that ever addressed by the Suffolk County Police? No, never. They told me they were gonna send patrols to sit on the corner. Did anyone show up? No. So who's gonna show up every single day when there's an accident on that corner? It's dangerous now, and it will be more dangerous when there's another 32 cars exiting and entering on a daily basis. On any given day, it could take you 10 to 15 minutes to turn onto Merrick Road from Baylon Avenue. On a concert night, it could take an hour. How are you gonna sit there and tell me that it's safe and it's not going to increase traffic? There's no reason that there should be a residential property zoned, changed to a commercial property in the middle of a residential neighborhood. My 7-year-old daughter takes her life into her hands, crossing the street now to get on the bus in the morning. How would you feel if that was in your community? How would you feel if that was next door to your home and your 7-year-old daughter? Your daughter couldn't ride her bike on the street without fear for her life. It's not fair. We're all tax-paying members of this community, most of which are longtime residents, and we do not want this in our community at all. That's all.
Thank you very much. Thank you.